Things we like. The side skirts. Now these are about €1,000 extra, but I think they give the whole car a lot more stance, a lot more presence, and they look very, very good. Number 2 is that at a push of a button, the sunroof opens. And too many cars nowadays, the sunroof doesn't actually open, and you can enjoy the summer air, even though it's actually 5 degrees. Hello and welcome back to the DoneDeal YouTube channel. Today we're reviewing the Skoda Karoq. Now it sits in the market against cars like the Nissan Qashqai, which we've previously reviewed, the Renault Kadjar, the Peugeot 3008, but if you're looking at a Karoq, chances are you're looking at something German, so something against the SEAT Ateca or even the Volkswagen Tiguan. So let's take a look at this, how it compares, how similar it is, some of its key features, and of course we'll be taking it for a drive. Prices for the Karoq start at about €29,000 on the road in Ireland. However, this is the sport line, so it's got all the bells and whistles, all the nice trim, and it actually comes in at just over 36,000. Now, should you go for a four-wheel drive option with all the bells and whistles, you're talking over €40,000, but that's similarly priced in that category. Now, when we open up the boot, because this is the sport line, it is completely electronic, and you can press that button to close it. Now, this boot is very, very cool. So the first thing is we'll talk about size. It is 521 litres. Should you fold down those rear seats, it's going to go up to over 1,800 litres. So it absolutely dwarfs its competitors. Then we're talking about functionality. So the first thing you have is you have this thin little layer here. Now here what you can do is you can actually move these around. So if you want to box off an item, let's say something like your Skoda first aid kit, it can stay there and it won't move around. However, should you want to mess around with it even more, or let's say you have a dog and you want to take them somewhere, you flip this around and it's got a rubber surface. That means that you can basically wipe it down or power hose it down and it's easy to clean. So it's very smart thinking. Now, if we go one level lower than that again, we have a full spare wheel. It is not a space saver, and that I am a massive fan of. In terms of other functionality, well, it has a lot of great things. So it has these hooks here for your shopping bags. They're very durable, very well built. There's some storage here. It's actually quite well lit up. And there is one last very cool feature. So this is only on the higher spec. You have a little feature to fold down those rear seats. Now it is worth mentioning that on some of the lower specs, you are going to have to make the walk around here like you do in the Ford Kuga and actually lower them from the side. But yeah, all in all, I have to say, the boot in the Karoq is hands down leading in its class. For rear passengers, it's looking good. So whether they're toddlers, there's loads of ISOFIX points, easily accessible and nicely, neatly hidden away. And if they're a little bit older, a little bit taller, then there's also so much room. In fact, I actually feel like I have loads of headspace despite the sunroof, and even more knee space. And what's more is, it's quite a nice view back here. You can see the infotainment system, the steering wheel is quite nice, the back of these seats are very cool with their bolsters, and it's quite comfortable. What's more is you have a little armrest with 2 drink holders right here, so you can cruise in absolute luxury. Other features that are quite nice are things like a little light here, a little hanger spot there, and there's a 12-volt socket should you want to charge your phone. There's also another 12-volt socket in the boot that I didn't mention, so if you've got 2 passengers and they both want to charge their phone, then one can plug in here, the other can plug in the boot, and it's happy days. As you open up the driver's door and go to get in, you notice you kind of have to duck under this front pillar a little bit, although it is nice and sturdy to get you in. Now, let's begin with the seats, because these Sportline seats are incredible. I'd nearly go so far as to say they're a must-have. This year we've been in the Octavia VRS, which had the nicest seats ever. Then they got even nicer when we got into the Kodiaq, and now we're here in the Karoq, and I have to say they're equally as nice. They're just so comfortable, and they really changed the whole driving experience. In terms of other things going on, well, the steering wheel's nice and close, and you can bring it even closer. It's actually quite maneuverable. It's some nice trim here, is a bit bland, but then you have things like this little light here and the Sportline badge, which just livens it up a little bit. In terms of storage, well, you've got 2 drink holders here. However, I have noticed that if you've got a slightly larger drink, they don't actually fit in, but thankfully there's storage in the door cards too. A little bit more storage under here, a big old glove box. Continuing on with storage, you've got a small little section here in the center console. Then you've got a nice little hidden bit up here, which is very nice if you want to hide things out of your kids' reach. And then under here, if you slide this back, you've got a 12-volt socket, a USB point to plug in your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and actually, you've got wireless charging, which is very, very swanky. The infotainment system itself, it's pretty spot on. Being from the Volkswagen group, they do this very well. As you can see, the touch, it's pretty flawless. It actually has gesture control, so you just swipe. It sometimes works. It can be a little bit fidgety, but it does have gesture control, which is a nice little extra. And like I said, the touch is brilliant. This is the 9-inch screen. It's the upgraded one. It has things like your radio. You can go into settings. You can change any settings you like. It actually does have an inbuilt sat nav, but it's hard to beat plugging the phone into the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, letting it load up, and then having all your apps there in the screen in front of you, including Google Maps, which, I mean, Google Maps is just absolutely amazing. So yeah, all in all, I think the infotainment system's pretty spot on. It's pretty up to date with the times, and it's very good. So when it comes to driving a car, and particularly when you're reviewing a car, you want to look at it objectively. So you need to sit into the car and kind of look at each thing individually. So the first thing I look at before power is actually steering. And I have to say, in the Karoq, it definitely feels pretty well balanced. When I take this left-hand corner, I can feel where the wheels are pointing, and it seems very direct, which is quite nice. The second thing you look at is power. Now, the Karoq comes with multiple different engine options. The opening level one is a 1 litre petrol engine. Now, being completely honest, I would say stay far away from that, because it's not going to have the power. It's also going to be uneconomical because it's a small engine pushing a big vehicle. So your next option would be something like a 1.5 petrol, a 1.6 diesel, or this, the 2 litre diesel. The 2 litre diesel that this one comes with is 150 brake horsepower, and it's got plenty of power. What's more is, in 2019, over 45% of new cars sold are still diesel, so although there's a bit of skepticism in the market, diesel is still the most popular choice, although it is definitely decreasing. And yeah, it feels pretty good. The next thing to talk about is the gearbox. Now, this is a manual gearbox. I'm not particularly a fan of manual gearboxes. I do enjoy driving them, particularly if you're in a sports car, but in an SUV, I just don't think it belongs. So it's probably well worth the upgrade of about €1,900 to go to the automatic. It's a dual clutch system. It's Volkswagen's version. It's very good. It's very reliable. It's extremely smooth, and it's definitely the way to go. Other than that, I go for an overall feel of how it is to drive. Here, I definitely feel like I'm lifted. I'm in an SUV, but I still kind of have the handling of maybe not a sports car, but of a car anyway, like a hatchback. And so for that reason, all in all, I'm quite a fan of the Karoq when it comes to driving. As someone who reviews cars, we tend to scrutinize things and look for all the little bits that we don't really like. So after going through this car, I have a few of my least favorite, and then we'll get on to our favorite things. So least favorite, although these 19-inch Crater alloys do look fantastic, with these Bridgestone tyres, I think they're a little bit too low profile and compromise the ride a little bit. And number 2 is the exhaust. And now I'm not going to pin this only on Skoda, as some of the most premium cars have fake exhaust. But being a sport line, you'd expect it to have some real exhaust with real air flowing through, but unfortunately, they are fake. And number 3, I don't really have one. I've actually scrutinized this, I swear, but there's very few things that really grinded my gears in this car, except the fact that it didn't have an automatic gearbox. But anyway, things we like. The side skirts. Now, these are about €1,000 extra, but I think they give the whole car a lot more stance, a lot more presence, and they look very, very good. Number 2 is that at a push of a button, the sunroof opens. And too many cars nowadays, the sunroof doesn't actually open, and you can't enjoy the summer air, even though it's actually 5 degrees. And last but not least, I'd love to make it this Skoda sign that jumps out there. We had the same in the Ateca, but instead I'm going to talk about some safety stuff. So this little box here effectively does a few different things. Number one is it will have adaptive cruise control. So if you're driving in the motorway, it will adapt to the speed of the car in front of you, keeping a safe distance. It also acts as emergency braking, which also includes pedestrian recognition. So there you have it. That is our review of the Skoda Karoq. Now I have to say, after driving this and driving the SEAT Ateca, they're extremely similar. So if you're looking to buy one, spec them very similar and go back and forth between various different dealers and see what you can get the best price on. If you're looking for finance, we do have various financing partners on DoneDeal. But for now, thank you so much for watching, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.